Okay, so I'd go drink. I'd go to 7-Eleven, get a 12-pack, I'd get a bottle, I'd go to a bar, I'd do something like that. And as soon as I started drinking, the pressure would go.
Suddenly I knew what to tell the boss. See, suddenly I knew how to handle my wife. See, suddenly the things that were bothering me didn't bother me. My head cleared up, it seemed to me. See, and that would happen each and every time I took a drink. See, and that thing, that relaxation of all this pressure that happens to me when I drink does not occur when I get laid, doesn't occur when I spend money or get paid, it doesn't occur when I buy something new or take a trip, doesn't occur when I eat or sleep. There is like videos, TV don't do it for me, sports doesn't do it for me. See, nothing in life that normal people use when they're restless, irritable, and discontented, see, satisfies me, does that for me. The only thing that has ever done it for me is a drink. See, it does it each and every time I drink it. See, I love that effect. I want it. See, it makes sense to me. I can't understand how other people can go without it. See, all that kind of stuff. It happens when I take a drink. Look at your own experience. Okay, and it says, drinks which they see others taking with impunity. Impunity means safely or without consequences. See, here's all these other people can have 3 drinks, 4 drinks, go home. They don't lose their job. They don't get divorced. See, they aren't at odds with their kids. They don't have people hunting them down. See, how can they do that? Why can't I do that? So we see other people drinking safely. Do you? Do you wish you could? That makes some sense. Okay? See, but we just have this problem because every time we drink, see, I tell you my experience, every time I drink, see, I get this abnormal reaction that kicks in. See? So I do get an instant sense of ease and comfort, and I also, at the exact same time, get a craving, see, for more alcohol at that point. See? And the more I drink, the more alcohol I want. And that want doesn't stop until I fall down, see, or run out of dough, see, or get in trouble, something like that. So after they have succumbed to the desire again, the word succumb, see, means to give in to. See, it also means to die. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do. Have you done that before? Tried to stay sober, succumbed to the desire, ended up drunk. See, why? The phenomenon of craving develops. See, so here's the allergic reaction going on. See, now we're drinking out of control, and they pass through the well-known stages of a spree. Okay, now you got to look up spree in your own dictionary and look at your own experience. See, we tend to think of, if somebody else is drinking when we read the word spree. Do you have that definition with you? You bring it? See, it was an unrestrained burst of activity. Okay, see, so you got to look at your own unrestrained. Unrestrained mean out of control. See, some people when they get drunk, see, they go hijack trucks. See, and drive across the country in a blackout. See, well, that's a spree for some people. See, but for other people, see, say a 65-year-old little blue-haired alcoholic woman, the spree might mean a bottle of Mogan David, see, in front of the TV watching the soaps. That's a spree too. See, so you got to look and see what a spree means to you. See, don't look at what it means to somebody else. See, what happens to you when you drink? See, does out of controlness start? See, you might not get drunk that day. It might take a week. It might take a month. See, but do you always end up drunk once you start drinking? See, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging happy as hell. Boy, I'm glad I did that again. The word remorse means a tortuous sense of guilt for one's actions. Tortuous sense of guilt. You feel guilty and screwed up and afraid and full of blame and shame and physical pain and all kinds of stuff. See, after you've been drunk, gone through a spree again. See, I did. Emerging remorseful. Emerge means to come out of. See, I don't come out of it whistling. Okay? I come out of it swearing off. Okay? Emerging remorseful with a firm resolution. Another word for resolution is a promise. See, not to do what? Drink again. How many times have you sworn off, said you weren't going to do it? Drugs or alcohol again. Okay? Now, does anybody see yourself in that little cycle we just went through? See, that's me. See, that's what happens to me when I drink. Let's all read the next sentence together out loud. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. All right, let's take the sentence apart. This, meaning the cycle in the paragraph, that's what this means, is repeated. Repeated means what? Chronic. See, this is repeated. See, it's not a one-time deal. This is repeated over and over. Okay, so that means chronic. Right? Unless this person, now cross off the word person and put your name there. See, if you have repeated that, see, more than once. See, that's about 25 years of drinking for me, all in one paragraph. Pissed me off. Okay. Anybody getting the sense that this doctor followed you around for a few years and then wrote this? See? Well, see, he just had powers of observation. He's talking about alcoholism. See, don't. So this is repeated over and over unless this person, so that's me, can experience. Experience doesn't mean talk about, learn about, wish for, pray for, hope for. See? Go to meetings where somebody else who did it is in attendance. See? It says, unless this person can experience. Experience means to have it happen to you. See? To live through it yourself. Experience an entire psychic change. Entire means whole or complete. Psychic, see, we hear the word psychic and we start thinking about mind readers. See, those people on TV and that you can call them on the phone and say, that's not what it means. The word psychic means body, mind, and spirit. An entire, complete psychic change. There is very little hope of his what? Being restored to health. Now, see, if you fit that description there of a real alcoholic, see, what does that mean to you? See? Unless you find, see, a spiritual awakening in your life, which is the solution that we see in the 12th step, see, there's very little hope for your recovery. See, what does that mean for your future? What can you look forward to without that then? Doom. Relapse. Certain to do that. See, and that is exactly precisely what happens to better than 9 out of 10 people who walk into Alcoholics Anonymous. See, is they don't believe this, they don't work the steps, and they relapse into drinking. See, and I can guarantee you that most of them don't have any fun. See, it doesn't turn out to be a party. So you might ask yourself, what experience brought you in? See, and what do you think is going to be back out there? See, if you can't find a solution to the problem that brought you in here. Okay, very little hope of his recovery. Now, see the word change? Everybody see the word change? Okay, I've asked right there in the sentence. Entire psychic what? Change. All right, I've asked Tom to read to you a short definition of the word change out of a Webster's dictionary.
Change to make or become different, alter, replaced with another, exchange, give or receive an equivalent sum in notes or coin, usually smaller denominations or other currency. Put on fresh clothes or clothing on, such as this, to put on different clothes.
Thanks. Okay, now if you would, let's go to the back of the book, page 569. Don't want people to get weirded out about this spiritual experience thing. 569 is Appendix 2. It's entitled Spiritual Experience. Okay. Now what you're going to notice is to take your highlighter, I'm going to ask you to highlight all the various ways they talk about change as we read this. Okay. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality what? Underlying personality change. So you begin to ask yourself, what's my personality? See, what is that? See, and am I willing to have that change? Sufficient to bring about what? See, recovery from alcoholism. It doesn't say membership in AA. See, sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Upheaval is a word for change, underlying upheaval. See, a lot of us are very afraid of a sudden and spectacular upheaval, see, so don't worry about that. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous, see? So in other words, don't let that bother you. See, that doesn't happen to most people. See, even though it did happen to some of the people who wrote the book, and it does happen today as people work steps. It's not necessarily true for most people. Okay, in the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. See, and we're going to look at each of those as we go through the book. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast, in what? Feeling and outlook. Okay. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, very long word, means change, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. See, now underline or circle or highlight that phrase, period of time. Okay? Because in about 4 lines they're going to tell us what that period of time is for people who work with steps. So, develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference. Difference means what? Change. See, long before he is. Aware of the difference long before he is himself or herself. Now, he finally realizes that he's undergone a change, profound alteration in his what? Reaction to life. Entire psyche, body, mind, and spirit. That such a could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. See? And yet, today in Alcoholics Anonymous, about 50 years after this book was written, see, word AA has been turned into a self-help group, see, where everybody's trying to change themselves. See, our book very clearly tells us that doesn't work. See, and yet, many of our groups, see, carry that message, that this is all some kind of self-help thing, you can change you, and all that. See, all that's very contradictory to what we find in our textbook. Okay. So that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place, see, underline the next 4 words, in a few months. See, now I asked you to underline the words period of time a little earlier in there. See, and what is the period of time? In a few months. See, but this only applies to people who are working the AA recovery program. See, many people come to AA and never change at all and end up drunk after 5, 10, 15 years. Because no change occurs, see, but they think and believe something else. See? It's very serious stuff. If you really want to recover from alcoholism and stop drinking, they simply have an open mind. Check it out for yourself. So what often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of what? See, who's the self? Me. I. See, what I think, what I'm trying to do. I'm working on me. See, all the various forms of self-discipline. See, and there's lots of them. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected, please underline the first word on the next page. Inner. See, not outer, not way upper outer. See, not in heaven. See, an unsuspected inner resource. And please, hang around at least till we get to chapter 4, where we start talking quite a bit about this inner thing. See? An unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. See, most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. See, it doesn't say, most of us think awareness of our problems today is what this is all about. You ever hear somebody walk into a meeting, and here's this guy, he says, well, I got fired, I went home, I slapped my wife, I kicked the dog, and I drove over to Laughlin, Nevada, and I blew the paycheck, but at least I'm aware of it today. Hey, that's real spiritual. See, self-awareness is not the solution in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, what does it say very clearly here? Most of us think this awareness, of a power. Where is this power? Inside. It's an inner resource. Aware of it, conscious of it, is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic, how many people in here think you might be one? See? Any alcoholic capable, see, not of going to meetings, not of attending things, see, not capable of being part of something, see, not capable of dealing with feelings, see, and finding little children within, is capable of honestly facing his problems. See, see, all of us when we come into AA, we got a lot of problems. See, some of us are closed-minded and we got this bad attitude and we got all this stuff. Well, see, we just got to start facing all of that and get going. See, if you want to recover. So, capable of honestly facing his problems. See, you don't even have to be honest. See, you just have to have the capacity to be honest. See, and then to begin. In the light of our experience, can do what? Recover, see, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. So, see, a lot of us are real open-minded to emotional stuff. See, we're pretty non-emotional out there, and we walk in here, and now we're going to hug and dance and deal with our feelings. See, we get real emotional, a lot of us, and we call that spirituality. It's got nothing to do with spirituality. See, we're talking about spiritual concept here. It says he can only be defeated by an attitude. Ask yourself, whose attitude can defeat you? Of intolerance or belligerent denial? We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. See, the difficulty that occurs in those of us who come to AA is not in the complexity of the program, but in the closedness of our minds. See, once our minds are open, the program makes perfect, simple sense. Okay? So we find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Okay, here comes some italics. What do italics mean? Ignore this, okay? Pay any attention to this. This is essentially meaningless. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of what? See, they are not essential to go to meetings. See? I've been to a lot of meetings and heard a lot of dishonest, unwilling, closed-minded people in there. See? So anybody, see, is welcome in an AA meeting, no matter what their attitude. See, but if you want to recover from alcoholism, see, then willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are essential. See, and a friend of mine pointed this out to me the other day. It's real interesting. Have you ever seen this acronym? HOW? Yeah. And people say that means honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Everybody seen that? Okay, now let's look at the order they are in the book. It says willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. Okay, so let's change the acronym. Who? Very interesting. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery. These are what? Indispensable. See, ask yourself an honest question. See, up to this point, have you dispensed with them? See, my first year sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, I totally dispensed with them. Not me. I don't need that. No big deal. See, I had a little cash register honesty going on the side, you know, when people were watching. See? That was it. See? So ask yourself, have you dispensed with them? Okay, there is a principle. The word principle means a fundamental truth or fact, see, which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man or a woman where? Everlasting means eternal. See? Look up the difference in your dictionaries between ignorance and stupidity. See, ignorant doesn't mean stupid. A lot of very smart people, see, die from their alcoholism. See, many very intelligent people die from their alcoholism. See, and they die ignorant. They're not stupid. See, remember, this is a textbook. See, we're trying to learn something. See, that takes some willingness, some honesty, and some humility, right? Okay. Cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance, and that principle is contempt prior to investigation. Okay, so, what is a book study all about? It's simply an investigation. Okay, that's all we're doing. See, trying to share some information that we find in this book, come to an understanding of it, see, so that each of us can look at our own experience, see, and come to some conclusions about whether we really are alcoholics or not. Okay, let's take a break, if you would. See, try to keep it to 10 minutes, if you could. 27, XXVII, second paragraph. Okay, we've just gone through the cycle of drinking, and we've all started to look at our own experience, see if that's he says this is repeated over and over. That's what chronic is all about. It's got nothing to do with whether you're still employed and have, $60,000 in the bank and still married and raising your kids and therefore I'm not an alcoholic. Do you repeat that cycle over and over again? See, no matter what your external or material circumstance. It takes an open mind for a lot of us because we have these stereotype pictures of what a real alcoholic is, and the book is telling us something totally different. Okay, it's repeated over and over unless this person, that's me, can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Okay, so you might ask yourself about this whole idea of hope. See, hope means an expectant wish. See, and a lot of us are operating on false hope. Okay? I hope meetings keep me sober. I hope, my sponsor will keep me sober. See, I hope thinking about maybe someday perhaps nearly kind of almost getting around to reading a book and working the steps will keep me sober. Okay? See, those are all false hopes. See, a lot of us go to treatment centers, and the treatment centers start teaching us that we have choices now that we're sober. And for an alcoholic, that's false hope. And these are things that we're going to learn from this textbook, and we need to have an open mind. Okay, next paragraph. On the other hand, now we're going to start talking about step 2 again. Strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, that's people who are not real alcoholics. Once a psychic change, that's his medical term for what we call a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening in Alcoholics Anonymous. Remember, it's about change. It's not about cosmic stuff. And once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person, who's that? Me, you, the very same person who seemed what? Doomed. And a lot of us, we see the word doomed, and we think of death. See, doomed doesn't mean death. Doom means what happens to you before you die. See, death ends doom. Okay? So be real clear about that. See, the alcoholic is doomed to repeat the cycle of drinking. See, with all the crap that goes on in your life as a result of that. See, the very same person who seemed doomed. Now, who's that person? See, are you open-minded to maybe you are doomed? See? Is that an acceptable idea to you? That's like, whoa, hang on, man. The very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them. See, ever notice in the meetings you go to how many people have no solution? See, they got complaints, they got problems, no solution. See, despaired of ever solving them. Suddenly, and this is a very important word. Please highlight that word, suddenly. See, you'll hear things in AA called, there aren't any quick fixes. You ever heard that? See, that's false. Okay? There's a quick fix. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. See? Next week when we get into Bill's story, you can see how quickly he got fixed. Suddenly. Whose opinion is this? See, when we get into chapter 2, they're going to quote one of the great psychiatrists of the 20th century who uses exactly the same word, Sedman. The very same person who seemed doomed suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, the only effort necessary being that required, must, to follow a few simple rules. And what he's referring to there is step 10, 11, and 12 in our program. Okay, men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal. The word sincere means no shit. Okay? You might ask yourself if you've ever been in this position. Okay? Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me. See, those of you who have sponsored newcomers, I'm sure have heard these very words, they're very similar things. I have people say this kind of stuff to me all the time. I can't stop. Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with who? Not with the alcoholic sitting across his desk. If he's honest with himself, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy, powerlessness. I can't help you. Okay? Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. How many people in here besides me have seen a doctor who gave all that was in him, and then you go out and drink again? Okay? It's often not enough. How many people have been in treatment centers? They gave all that was in them. We go out and drink again. Recovery houses, psychologists, counselors, therapists of all kinds. See, they do what they can do. What do? We end up drunk. Okay. One feels that something, underline the next 4 words, more than human power. Make a little note. Am I a human? Is my sponsor a human? Are people in AA human? More than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change, the spiritual awakening. Though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, about 2%. Okay. Well, if you got 40,000 people and you multiply that by 2%, you come up with about 800. That would fill this room, wouldn't it? Okay. But that means you got 39,200 gravestones outside. Okay. Who didn't make it? Okay. So though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit that we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Today, there are over 7,000 treatment centers which specialize in alcoholism and drug addiction in the United States today. What kind of an impression have they made on the problem as a whole? Very little. The problem's getting worse. Yeah, the problem's getting worse. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. Please underline the 3 words, do not respond. When we get to page 20 in chapter 2, we're going to come right back to this sentence. And you find out the importance of those 3 words, do not respond. Okay. It says, I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. All right, a newcomer walks into AA, we say, just put the plug in the jug and keep coming back. What are they going to use to do that? Mental control. What does his doctor say about that? I do not hold with those. See? And yet, well, we got people in AA who are telling newcomers they got power over alcohol. See, I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I've had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date in their favor, favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date. What happens to any alcoholic who starts again? Phenomenon of craving. And then the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. Anybody got any experience of anything like that? Anybody done that legally, business-wise, with your wives or children? Left them somewhere, missed something important, see you're off drunk, come back all screwed up, got a million excuses. See, feeling guilt, remorse, and all that. Has ever happened to you? My parents used to leave me all over South Texas. I got left in supermarkets and barber shops and movie theaters and all that. They'd start drinking, see, and they'd just be gone on a tooth for 2 days. See? Just leave me and my brothers and sisters wherever they left us. Totally forget about it. See? Why? Phenomenon of craving. See, once I understood that, a lifelong resentment I had against them disappeared. See? Once I was able to see what was going on with them. Way back then. Yeah, these men were not drinking to escape. See, what do we tell ourselves and other people? I drink to escape. See, these men were not drinking to escape. See, they were drinking to overcome a craving. See, beyond their mental control. See, once we start drinking, what happens? See, regardless of the consequences, see, these seem to end up drunk, loaded, on a spree, life going to hell. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving. How many people got the phenomenon of craving when you drink? See, which cause men and women, see, to make the supreme sacrifice. The supreme sacrifice are a couple of words that you seldom see except on Medal of Honor certificates, which are awarded posthumously. See, after they die. Supreme sacrifice means to die. Supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. Look at your own experience of the well-known stages of a spree and see how many dangerous situations you've been in up to this point. You drive drunk, number one. You do drugs deals, and hang around with fun people. See? You might go to a library and look up the statistics on accidental death and dismemberment and stuff in the United States. And you find out about 80% of it is drug and alcohol related. Drowning, burning, accidental gunshots, all that kind of stuff. Okay? Drunk driving, accidents, okay? On and on and on. Okay? What goes on with you in the well-known stages of the spree while the phenomenon of craving is happening? Okay. Now he's going to talk about classifying alcoholics. Okay? And most of us come in here, we've already classified ourselves, and then we walk in and we classify everybody else. Let's see what the doctor has to say about that. What's another word for classify? Yeah. Classification of alcoholics seems most difficult, and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. There are, of course, the psychopaths. All right, now everybody close your eyes. What's your picture of a psychopath? Everybody got a knife-wielding, kind of homicidal maniac kind of a guy? That's what a psychopath is? See? Let's see what it actually is, because he's going to tell us. Okay? There are, of course, the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. Look at the stability of your emotions in your life. Are you stable or are you unstable? Do you fly off the handle, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of being driven, okay? That kind of stuff? Are you emotionally stable or unstable? It says we're all familiar with this type. Now, if we're all familiar with this type, then it leads you to believe that there are probably a whole lot of psychopaths. See? Now, there aren't a whole lot of homicidal maniacs, see, but the doctor's not talking about homicidal maniacs. He's talking about the precise definition of a psychopath. He says we're all familiar with this type. They're always going on a wagon for keeps. How many times have you gone on a wagon for keeps? Is that you? They are over-remorseful. Anybody else in here RFG? Okay. Real guilty? Okay. Real guilty? Over-remorseful, and make many resolutions. I promise I will never do this again. How many times have you promised yourself, the mirror, your husband, your wife, your kids, your boss, see, about drugs and alcohol and all that? They make many resolutions, but never what? See, how do we know we never made a decision? No change occurred. See, we kept on doing it. Is that you? See? No problem in my mind, right? See, it blew me away to find out I was a psychopath. I always thought it was Norman Bates, the guy from Psycho. Okay, so I'm one for one. He's going to go through four more. There's the type of man, also a woman, who's unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. Alcoholism isn't my problem, it's something else. See? So this guy and woman, they get resourceful and sneaky and shrewd, see, and all that. So look at your own experience. Okay, he plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. Albuquerque sucks. I'm going to L.A. Okay, L.A. sucks. I'm going to Seattle. Okay. I don't like Foster's Lager anymore. I'm going to Moosehead. Okay. The hell with this beer. I'm just going to drink straight Scotch whiskey. No, I don't like Scotch. Maybe white liquor. Maybe gin. Maybe vodka. You ever done that kind of stuff? I'm 2 for 2. There's a type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink how? Without danger, safely. Anybody else done that besides me? See, I used to, come up towards Halloween, something like that. I would swear off until Thanksgiving. Mega doses of vitamins, play some tennis, get my health back. See, always with this idea that as soon as Thanksgiving arrived, I'd start drinking again, but then I'd be able to control it and cruise on through the holidays, and I wouldn't screw up like I did last year. See? And then came Thanksgiving, and I go down to my mom's, see, and I pop the first beer, have the first glass of wine. Phenomenon of craving hits me. By 3 o'clock, I'm shit-faced, see, and I'm arguing with my brother, and all this stuff. See, I want to throw the turkey out the window. So all this stuff starts to happen. See, I thought I could do it safely because I had controlled it up to that point. See, but then I took a drink and blam. See, one more time, off to the races. See, you got any experience like that? You may be like me, 4 for 4. Okay? There is the manic-depressive type. Okay, now manic simply means high. See? Just means a period of elation. Depressive means low. Okay? Now lots of us in Alcoholics Anonymous are manic-depressive. Up in Sacramento, where I live, it's almost a fad to be a manic-depressive now. And go to a doctor, be diagnosed as a bipolar manic-depressive, and take lithium. That'll solve all your problems. Okay? Now, I was a manic-depressive. See? So I'm the manic-depressive type. Just look, see if you got some of this goes on. See? It sounds a lot like psychopath, doesn't it? Emotionally unstable. Okay? The manic-depressive type, who is perhaps the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. See, well, if you go to a library, you'll find books not just chapters, written on manic depression. They don't seem to have a solution for it either. Okay? And then there are the types that we all wish we were. Entirely normal in every respect. Okay? I've been sober 9 years. I've met exactly one guy. His name is Ray W., who fits this description. Entirely normal in every respect, except in the effect alcohol has upon him. Except that's where we all wish we were, see, or think we are, and everybody else is the psychopath and the sneak, see, and the manic depressive and the screwed up. See, that's you guys. I'm just a normal person, see, except for my alcohol problem. Okay. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect, except in the effect alcohol has upon them, and they are often able, intelligent, and friendly people. See, in my life, there have been plenty of times when I was able, intelligent, and friendly. See? So I appeared normal, see, to a lot of people. See? So he's given us 5 types or classifications of alcoholics, see? And I'm all 5. See? Now you may be 1, or you may be 2, or you may be 3, see? But I'm all 5 of them. I can see myself in all of them, see? Which I find kind of interesting. And in every book about alcoholism that I've ever read by someone with a newer and better idea, one of the chapters is always some kind of definition, of what an alcoholic is. Anybody read those kind of books? There's always a chapter called the definition of the alcoholic. And all of us alcoholics read that, and we find some truth and some false, and we go, screw this. Because there's no way to define the chronic alcoholic. So this book, you may notice as we go through, doesn't have a definition of the alcoholic. It's got a description, of alcoholism, and what the chronic alcoholic does when he or she drinks, But there's no definition of the personality type called alcoholic, And everybody who's ever tried to describe it, has fallen short, because alcoholism cuts across every personality trait. It cuts across all emotional bounds. See, any human being can be an alcoholic. So you can't nail it down. Remember the sentence we read on a previous page? Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. Why is that? Because the ordinary psychological approach wants to say you're manic depressive, now I'll treat that. That's your problem. Well, doctors and shrinks have tried that on me, but as soon as they hung the manic depressive label on me, I'm over here being paranoid. And then as soon as they figure out that I'm not in that box, I'm in this box, oh, the guy really is paranoid, I'm over here called genius. And then I'm over here called psychopath. And they're always like one step behind trying to shoot me with their little spiritual Uzi, and they can't do it because I'm always doing one of these. I do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach because they can't define the personality type. So they don't know how the hell to counsel you. And to tell you the truth, anybody in here besides me ever seen a shrink or a psychologist? I have never met an alcoholic who cannot spin a shrink within 5 minutes. I've never met a single alcoholic or drug addict who couldn't do that. Because they're over there and they're trying to nail it down. And it's kind of like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. They really have trouble.
It took too long, 50 minutes before you told me I was saved.
Yeah, I read a first-year medical textbook. It was published in the 1960s. And I didn't read the whole thing. I just read the chapter on alcoholics and the chapter on drug addicts. And there was a collaboration of 3 guys who wrote the book with a principal author. And what they said about alcoholics and drug addicts is they go through all of this stuff, do this, do that. And what it came down to is you will not believe how dishonest these people are. Watch out. That was their conclusion. Here's all this stuff that you will not believe how these people will deceive you and deceive themselves. So really, it's an untreatable form of insanity. Okay, so here's all this stuff about classifications of alcoholics. In many of our groups, that's what everybody wants to talk about. I'm this, and I'm that, and I had some of this, and this is the jacket that was hung on me before I came in, and this is the jacket that's been hung on me since I came in. It's got nothing to do with recovery from alcoholism. The doctor's saying, forget all that. The root problem of this is the disease of alcoholism. Alcoholism is not the symptom of manic depression. psychopathology, sociopathology, or any of that. See? We all got it just backwards. See? We need to treat the alcoholism, recover from the alcoholism, see, and then a solution to these other things becomes very apparent. See, but not the other way around. Okay? Everybody see that? Right, so he says all these and many others. See, and if you're familiar with the book called the DSM, it's got all the psychiatric, psychological diagnoses you could ever wish to look into. See, you read that book and you find out you're all of them. See, same as I was. See, many others, doesn't make any difference, have, let's see, look at the words, one symptom in common. See, they cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. Cannot do it. Cannot be done. Have an absolutely abnormal reaction. It starts with the first drink. Okay, this phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of being a jerk, manifestation of my being a psychopath, see, or manifestation of my manic depression, see, or my passive aggressiveness, or something. No, it doesn't say that, does it? Manifestation of what? Allergy. See, which differentiates, see, remember this word? Differentiates these people, see, and sets them apart as a distinct entity. Okay, see, we take 60 people and we put them in the lobby of a hospital, okay, and we got to get them diagnosed, see, and these 10 got muscular dystrophy. We send them over there where they do muscular dystrophy stuff. These 10 have leukemia. They go to the leukemia ward. See, these 10 have AIDS. They go to the AIDS ward. These 10 have lung cancer. They go to the oncology ward. See, these 10 have the flu. We put them in the infectious diseases thing. And these 10 have what? Alcoholism. And where do we put them? On the alcoholic ward. See? They have a disease. See? We separate them as a distinct entity. See? They have a disease that needs to be treated. See? It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. How many people in here have been into or through treatment? Did it treat you? Okay. So 55 years later, that statement is still true. It's the medical facts of the disease of alcoholism. It has never been, by any treatment, see, which is medical, psychiatric in nature, psychological in nature, counseling in nature, educational in nature, never been, see, permanently eradicated. It is not treatable. It's just like AIDS. Okay? So the only relief we have to suggest is what? Entire abstinence, see, which means what? Never safely use alcohol in any form at all, see, except the alcoholic drinks in the cycle and cannot stay abstinent. Repeats that over and over and over again. Everybody clear about that? See? So the only solution is to stay sober, don't drink. Stay away from alcohol, and yet the alcoholic cannot do that. He or she has formed the habit, is addicted, remember page 26, found they can't break it, no self-confidence, nothing human will stop them, and their problems pile up, become astonishingly difficult to solve. Okay? Now, remembering all that, you will understand the next paragraph, which is very short. It says, this immediately precipitates is a nice word for puts, okay? This immediately precipitates us into a seething, which means bubbling or boiling. Cauldron is a big pot of debate. Yes, no, right, wrong. I don't believe this. This is horseshit. See, he's wrong. See, no. See, much has been written, pro and con. Pro means for, con means against. Yes, this is true. No, it's not true. See, but among physicians. See, notice it doesn't say among alcoholics, because I don't know very many alcoholics who believe it. Remember, we must believe it, but I don't know very many who do. Okay? Among physicians, the general opinion, okay, an expert, formal judgment based on experience, education, and training, the general opinion of what? The medical profession is, finish the sentence with me. Are you a chronic alcoholic? Does that apply to you? Okay? Is that tough to face? Was for me. See, we're talking step 1 here. What does step 1 say? Powerless over alcohol. See, what's his doctor telling you? That's true. See, that's true. Certain to drink again. Okay, top of page 29 says, what is the solution? Perhaps I can best answer this by relating one of my experiences. See, remember, this is the doctor's opinion. The interesting thing to notice is this doctor, though he was the medical director of a nationally known hospital that treated alcoholics and drug addicts, he didn't have a solution. 98% of the people he worked with died. See, all he's got is an opinion about a solution that you find in this book. It says, about 1 year prior to this experience, a man. Now, if you're interested, the man's name was Hank Parkhurst. He's a good friend of Bill Wilson's in the early days. About 1 year prior to this experience, a man was brought in to be treated for what? Chronic alcoholism. Okay. Now, everybody knows what chronic alcoholism is now? You learned that from the doctor's opinion? Okay. He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage. Everybody know what that is? It's where you have a stomach rupture due to the ingestion of alcohol, and you end up bleeding out your mouth, your nose, and your ass. Okay. You got to run ice water down your stomach, try and stop the bleeding. He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. Pathological means disease process. Okay? And the term for this, the lingo term for pathological mental deterioration is wet brain. Anybody know that term? It's called a wet brain, irreversible brain damage. Okay? He had lost everything worthwhile in life and was only living, one might say, to drink. So this is an end-of-the-line kind of guy. Okay? This is one of those kind of guys who begins to fit the stereotypes that a lot of us carry around. Okay? He frankly admitted and believed that for him there was what? He was in the pine box, and he knew it. Following the elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. Say, the damage that appeared to be so while drunk was not irreversible. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. Please underline that sentence. It doesn't say we taught him to deal with his feelings. We sent him to a barbecue. He accepted the plan. See, what plan is outlined in the book? What you see up on the wall there, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. He accepted it. Ask yourself, have you accepted it? See? If you haven't, if you're new here and you don't really understand what the plan is, then don't let that bother you. Okay? He accepted the plan outlined in this book. 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name. Hello, Hank. And partly recognized his features, but there all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous what? You ever been that? You ever been that? You ever find yourself that way sober? Trembling, despairing, nervous. Gotta get to a meeting, oh God. Call somebody. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wretch had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. Remember restless, irritable, and discontent? He's no longer that. I talked with him for some time, but was not able to bring myself to feel that I had known him before. To me, he was a stranger, and so he left me. A long time has passed with no returned alcohol. See, the solution, came from the plan outlined in this book. What he's trying to describe to us, and to anybody who reads the book, is what an entire psychic change or spiritually awakened person looks like. See? What was that word that kept coming up again and again and again when we went through the appendix in the back? Change. See? What's he trying to tell you about this guy? He's changed. See? His personality has changed. He's fundamentally changed as a human being. See? It's not the same old shit with the plug in the jug. See? White knuckling. See? Something has happened to this guy. Does that make sense? You see what he's saying? That's the solution. Okay? When I need a mental uplift, see, what does that mean? Well, have you ever been depressed and try to think happy thoughts? Okay. Remember Tinkerbell? Just think happy thoughts. You'll be all right. Okay. So when I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. The patient had made his own diagnosis. Anybody else in here ever diagnosed yourself? I think I've got cancer. That kind of stuff. Okay. Made his own diagnosis and deciding his situation what? Hopeless. See, have you decided that? You face that? Had hidden in a deserted barn, determined to die. Have you ever been determined to die? You ever been suicidal? See, a lot of us have. Anybody in here gotten that way sober, besides me? Yeah, see, those of you who are new, keep your hands up. Those of you who have been suicidal sober without working the program. See, those of you who are new, see, look around. See, a lot of people in AA will share that with you. See, that life can get pretty grim sober, even though you attend meetings. see, without a solution to problems. See? It's very common for people to commit suicide in Alcoholics Anonymous. So deciding his situation hopeless, had hidden in a deserted barn, determined to die. He was rescued by a searching party and in desperate condition brought to me. You might underline the word desperate. Look it up in your dictionary, because we're going to find it again towards the end of chapter 2 about what it takes, see, to accept the solution that we're talking about. Desperate condition brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, what's he talking about? Detox. He had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment may what? All right, has anybody got that attitude? See, did you come to AA kind of like, oh shit, nothing else has worked, this probably won't work either? Thought the treatment a waste of effort? See, unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. See, now, this guy, obviously at this point, see, he still thought it was a matter of willpower. See, have you ever thought it's a matter of willpower? See? Anybody launched your willpower at your alcohol problem and failed? See, and think that if you could just get enough willpower, you'd be able to stay sober? See, my family still thinks that AA gave me the willpower, see, to stay sober. They're very grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous for that. And it's very difficult to explain to them, see, that I'm not sober on willpower. See, that a power greater than myself is responsible for my daily sobriety. See, contingent on what I do in practicing spiritual principles in my life, and as long as I do that, I get to stay sober. See, my willpower is absolutely useless in trying to keep myself sober. Okay, so a lot of us get very confused about this whole idea of willpower. Okay, and this guy's obviously confused, see, but he's also obviously been through treatment, and he knows treatment doesn't work. Okay, so a lot of us, see, when we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, we're very cynical and closed-minded, see, because of all the things we've tried that haven't worked. See? But what you need to understand, see, and try to look at with an open mind is that what we're offering in Alcoholics Anonymous, see, is based on this textbook, and it will be very different, see, even if you think you've been through the steps in the treatment plant. Okay? Okay, so just have an open mind about that. This is not about willpower and choice. Okay, last paragraph. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great that we felt his only hope would be through what we then call moral psychology, and we doubted if even that would have any effect. And before you turn the page, see, just notice what he's just said about how sick this guy is. See, and this guy pretty much sounds like a combination of all the things we looked at over on page 28, doesn't it? Like, under the classification of alcoholics. Probably a psychopath. He sounds like a manic depressive. See? He keeps getting drunk. He's obviously suicidal. He's a pretty screwed up human being. All right, now the solution, obviously, see, is that he go to meetings and learn how to love himself, right? See, and that he get counseled some more. See, that's even the doctor's, see, diagnosis, is he thinks this guy needs some more counseling. And this guy's going, counseling doesn't work. See, can you see that? See, this guy knows he's hopeless. See, the doctor's still thinking there must be some kind of psychology we can apply to this. See, but this guy already knows. He's the one who's got the problem, and he knows psychology isn't going to work. He knows he's screwed. Okay, so let's go over to the next page where it talks about how many meetings he went to and how he learned to love himself. Okay? It says, however, he did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. Okay? As a result of that, what happened? He has not had a drink for a great many years. This guy's name was Fitz. He lived in Baltimore, I think. He died with about 30 years sober. Never drank again. So I see him now and then, and he is as fine a specimen of manhood as one could wish to meet. Okay, so what I want you to notice, especially if you've been through the mill on psychology and psychiatry, see, is that in Alcoholics Anonymous, to sober up doesn't mean that you come in here, put the plug in the jug, see, and then you're still a screwed up human being, depressed and full of problems and unhappy, and fighting with that the rest of your life. See, that is not what recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous is all about. This is what recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous is all about. See, here's this guy who's totally screwed up. See, he went to the root of the problem, see, which is what we learn in this book. See, he worked the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and all this other mental, emotional stuff, disorder, that's going on in his life, which looks very real to the doctor, see, disappeared. See? And he is as fine a specimen of manhood as one could wish to meet. See? And that's exactly what happened to me, see, once I worked the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was diagnosed as a manic depressive with an anxiety neurosis, severe. Okay? See, that means a manic depressive who lives in terror. See, to me that was normal. See, and that, see, without drugs, without psychology, without psychiatry, see, or any of that, see, simply by putting into operation these spiritual principles that we find program of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I found freedom from the whole enchilada, see, which is exactly what they're telling me here in the front of the book. See, so if you've got some jackets that you brought in here and some depression about that, closed-minded, see, what I'm trying to make plain, I hope I'm making plain, see, is that there is a solution for you here, see, from that stuff as well. Okay, then he says, I earnestly advise every alcoholic. Now, the word earnest means no kidding. Most of us have been to a doctor somewhere along the line, and doctors always diagnose us, and then they give us some advice. I advise you to go home, get some sleep, so you take 2 aspirin, eat chocolate chip cookies, and call me Wednesday, because I'm going to play golf. Okay, whatever it is that they advise you to get a blood test, you know, they always give you some advice. Okay, now here's this doctor, see, with 38 years experience, see, and he's watched 98% of the people he knows with alcoholism die of this disease. See, and he says, I earnestly, no kidding, advise every alcoholic. So ask yourself, do I think now that I might be an alcoholic? And if so, write your name right there. See, where it says, I advise you. Put your name there. I earnestly advise you. See, remember to whom it may concern? See? To go to a bunch of meetings, deal with your problems, learn how to love yourself, and find a little child within. Is that his advice? This specialist on alcoholism? What's his advice to you? Read the rest of the sentence. Yeah. Read this book through. Not some other book. See? Read this book through. See? And I hope you're seeing how intensely we're going through this book. Now, I earnestly advise every alcoholic, that may be you, to read this book through. And though perhaps he came to scoff. Everybody know what scoff means? Yeah, laugh, ridicule, scorn. Yeah, right. Alcoholism. Yeah, sure, it'll kill me. Yeah, right. Spiritual awakening. My ass. God. Give me a break on this God stuff. You don't need that. See, that's all scoffing. See, all the forms of my own program, see, that's scoffing. See, all the dealing with feelings and the psychobabble, it's all scoffing. Scorn, contempt, closed-mindedness. See? Though perhaps he came to scoff, he might remain to do what? Pray. See? So, if you're sitting here, see, and you're kind of closed-minded about this God thing that we talk about, and spiritual awakening thing and all that, see, that's all right. See, don't worry about that. Just have that state of mind. But ask yourself, see, am I at least willing, see, to hang in here and find out what all the facts about this are? See, and maybe if I do, see, my mind might change or open, see, about this spiritual solution that you guys are talking about. Okay? See, so if you're here and you're scoffing and you're closed-minded and you're unwilling and all, that's okay. That's cool. See, we're just at the beginning. But ask yourself, am I willing to come back and to continue to take a look, see, and to learn, see, and find out so that I'm sure, see? And am I willing that maybe the facts might change my mind? See? Those are some things that you can ask yourself, see, and start to take a look at. Okay? So let's read the sentence one more time. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. And that's what happened to me. My mind got changed, see, once I learned the gravity of the situation that I faced, see, and trying to keep myself sober, see, by any means that I could come up with. Okay. And one thing you might notice is you see Dr. Silkworth's name there. We also saw it over on the second page of the doctor's opinion. It says William D. Silkworth. when the first books were printed, his name wasn't in the books. See, this was all very radical information in the 1930s. See, what you find in this book totally went against conventional medical opinion. It went against the social ideas of alcoholics and alcoholism. See, and this guy's job was in jeopardy. His career was in jeopardy. See, when he wrote that? And so in the first few printings of the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, his name wasn't even in the book. He was anonymous. See? You notice all the other alcoholics aren't here. You don't see, it doesn't say by Bill Wilson and Bob Smith. It says Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, even the doctor was anonymous. See, because of the social and medical climate, see, in the early days of AA. So even that's kind of an interesting fact. Okay, that's it for today. Next week.